Liverpool start to challenge hit a snag with yet another loss, this time to Manchester United at Anfield. The question is, are they in a full-blown crisis? Welcome to another edition of your favorite sports show, Sports Pizza. My name is Edwin Onyebolis. I'm excited to grace your screens once again. We have a lot in store for you from the home scene. Remo Stars were handed a humbling defeat to Mamelodi Sundowns in the CAF Champions League. We'll talk about that. And of course, in Formula One, the title race is wide open. Max Verstappen in Austin, United States of America, won this time, reducing the points gap to 40 points with 5 races left. And your favorite part of the show definitely is the Tipsters Corner, where we give you all the juiciest tips for punters going into the weekend. Once again, welcome to your favorite, exciting, entertaining, informative, and educative show, Sports Pizza. Edwin and Bankole always on set. Before I bring Bankole on board, let's go on a short break, catch our breath. When we return, we'll dive straight into action. Welcome back to the action. It is Sports Pizza. Edwin alongside Banky. Banky, welcome. How you doing?
Edwin, it's good to be here once again after an thrilling weekend.
Yeah.
In all sports, not just in football. Yeah. Also, the Formula One looks like it's about to be a grand finale.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider Max Verstappen, forcing his way back into title contention after what we saw in Austin, United States. But yeah, it's always nice to come here, talk, analyze, and also a bit of banter about some of our favorite clubs and individuals in the game.
Talking about banter, last week I didn't have enough of the trolling coming from Bankole, Liverpool, Manchester United. But that's where we start. The third consecutive loss in the league for Liverpool. They're 4 points behind Arsenal, who currently top the standings. It was expected to be a game where they bounce back from their losses. Manchester United were there for the taking. United's problems have been well highlighted in the last couple of years, particularly under Ruben Amorim, who are proud to that win, having won back-to-back games in the league. What has gone wrong with Liverpool? Because we've talked about players, we've talked about tactics. What exactly is the root cause of this crisis, and do you think it's a full-blown crisis?
Yeah, I think it's a full-blown crisis now, especially when you consider there are a lot of players who are not playing at their best simultaneously. You have Virgil van Dijk, who is looking like a shadow of himself. Same thing with Konate. Milos Kerkers, the new signing that we saw from Bournemouth, is also looking like a downgrade on Andy Robertson, and that says a lot when you consider the type of Andy Robertson or the caliber of players which Andy Robertson was last season. It's not the best of Andy Robertson. You also look at the fact that Arne Slot is a manager who likes to, like other managers, who likes to play from the back, who likes to build up, who likes all of the intricacies of modern football. And you don't have the tools to carry that out when you don't have a certain Trent Alexander-Arnold. So you look at Liverpool and you look at how they try to pass from the back. They are way too easy to press. They are way too easy, to contain in their half. And you can't spend about over £500 million and then build your team around Cody Gakpo. It is insane if you put it that way. Alexander Isak looked like he lacks match fitness or maybe confidence. Florian Reeds, like I've always said, it is always going to be difficult to pinpoint a position where you can get the best out of him. He's the type of player that strived in a particular environment, in a particular condition. And when you take him out of that environment without recreating the same type of environment, he will struggle. And that's exactly what we're saying with Arne Slot. And I sometimes I want to say they're in a transition phase, but it's also difficult to say that when you consider they're defending champions. But when you consider the amount of players who left and the amount of players that came in, it is quite a team that are somewhat in a transition phase, and in a transition phase you expect things like this to happen.
Can we make sense of his starting lineup? If you're Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, and you found out that you're starting against Manchester United, and particularly with Ekitike, the guy in your position is someone who is not fit. We know he's not fit. You've been scoring goals. You can even put forth an argument that you've been Liverpool's best player this season. How disappointed will you feel, and what does it mean on the long term for guys like Ekitike and Florian Wirtz, who know that their place in the starting lineup is not guaranteed.
Yeah, for Ekitike, I think if I was in his shoes, I think I would feel a bit disappointed. He has clearly been their best player. He has clearly been their best signing also in the transfer window. You look at the stats he had in the Community Shield. You look at the stats, in the league also, the amount of goals. I think he's also their
even the League Cup.
Yeah, I think he's also their highest goal scorer this season. So you look at all of that, and the reason why a certain Alexander Isak is playing is because of his price tag. It's because of the money that was spent, on bringing him. And you look at how, precedence is basically what the work they've both done this season. There is no argument at which you can put there that would place Alexander Isak over Ekitike in the starting 11. And for Arne Slot, I think he knows this, but I also think he's under a lot of pressure to make his biggest signing work, to make his most expensive signing work. And for Florian Wirtz, I don't think he'll be disappointed. I think I am of the opinion that he also needed to be taken out of the Florian squad. It was nice when they were winning. It was nice when he was in the squad and there was not a lot of attention, but they were winning. But now that things have turned around, there will be a lot of questions asked. There will be a lot of pressure on him, to show up.
And I think taking him out of the firing line, I don't know, can be counterproductive because you paid over 100 million quid to get him. It means that dropping him is sending a message that maybe he was misprofiled.
No.
Yeah,
dropping him could also mean that he's taking time to adapt.
After 7 games, dropping
him could also
after 7 games.
I don't think dropping him necessarily mean we've made a huge mistake by signing him. We made a huge mistake by bringing. I don't think that's the message.
I'm not saying that is.
I think it's quite clear that he's struggling to adapt. It's quite clear that he's struggling to integrate into this Liverpool team or integrate into the Premier League. So he needs to take time. Look at how things are being done. Look at, when you're on the bench, you get a clearer view, of the game than when you're in the action also. And I think it also gives the managers time, to also figure out how best to use Florian Wirtz. And it is a question that I knew that would come. Yeah. What is Florian Wirtz's best position? What position do you get the best out of him? And this is also something on the slot will need time to figure out. And with him on the bench, it would give him time. It would give him that particular time. So I look at all of this, and I don't have a problem with Wirtz being on the bench. But my problem is Ekitike also. But we also have to consider that he was brought in for what? 90 million.
Yeah.
So he's not exactly a cheap backup striker. So I think these are the issues, for Arne Slot to handle.
Finally, before we go to Manchester United, is it time to drop Mohamed Salah?
It is. I think it is. And I was one of the few people who said it made no sense to extend his contract, even when he was playing out of his skin.
Yeah.
It's well documented how players in the ilk of Salah tend to have that physical decline overnight. We've seen it. There's enough precedence for it. So you now extending his contract with a couple of years with increase in his wages also is a bad business decision. I felt like if there was any, or if there was a player they should keep or they should try to extend, was Trent. But they allowed Trent to go on the free and kept Virgil van Dijk and Salah. And you can clearly see the decline in Salah. It is down to the fact that there are certain things that he would do. The pace that he used to have has gone down a bit. And when you take that pace out of Salah, he's not the most technically gifted player. No, and that means that's not a disrespect to him.
Yeah.
But he's one of the most clinical players, and the reason why he gets into position to finish is because of his pace. And when he doesn't have that, you see Mohamed Salah lagging in behind. You see him struggling to beat, a defender, and you can see the change, or in terms of turn of pace when Jeremy Frimpong, came in. You could see how, United defenders were struggling, to keep up with him. I think he was also the one who put in that crossing for Cody Gakpo, that he missed the opportunity. So I think he needs to go on the bench, and I also think it's the same thing in Florian Wirtz. It gives the managers time, to find a way to integrate him back in the team where you can get the best out of him.
All right, this time let's talk Manchester United before our viewers think we have a bias against them. For Manchester United, is this a turning point for Ruben Amorim and his players? Why are you laughing?
Because this is a question we've asked ourselves like 1 billion times.
No, it's different. It's different.
Since post-Fergie.
It's different now.
Since post-Fergie, we've asked this question like 1 billion
times.
Bankole. Edwin, I can point out 10 instances where you've asked me this question.
Bankole. You know why this is different? How is it different from United knocking out PSG in the Champions League? Relax now. This is different because it is after the United had won domestic cups. Even though I'm not a big fan of domestic cups and blah blah blah, but again they've had some little successes, pockets of successes that you can say, okay, yes, they were successful in this phase. Now with Ruben Amorim, it's a landmark win for him. Manchester United first at Liverpool since 2016. It is his first back-to-back win. He's had a goalkeeper who has shown that he gives his team a bit of confidence. They know that they have assurance in defense. They are scoring goals also. So when you look at all of this, short term, mid term, long term, whatever you want to call it, is this the final turning point? Let me know that way.
No, I don't think so. I think it's too soon to call. I think, and I don't want to try to take credit away from United. They were really good on the day. You had a couple of players who did well. Brian Mbeumo, Matthias Cunha.
Yeah.
You could see the reason why they went out and spent a lot of money on these players. But also there were a lot of questions that I think a better team would have taken advantage of. Or a Liverpool with momentum, a bit of more confidence would have taken advantage of. Bruno Fernandes in midfield is still, I don't think it's still ideal. Casemiro also seems to be showing his age day by day. The wing backs, Amad Diallo is good. Defensively, maybe not so much, but offensively, I think he's going to add a lot. But Diego Dalot does not look like someone who would inspire confidence. I guess what on the bench also, Patrick Dogu does not also inspire a lot of confidence for United. Yes, the goalkeeper has looked decent so far, although I still think he hasn't really been tested. I still think we should slow our roles down on giving him plaudits, but he's an upgrade on whatever it is they've had this season. So I understand why it might seem like this might be a turning point, but I don't think so. I think United, when they have to go out and attack, when the impetus is on them to take control of the game, it still remains to be seen how they would that will pan out.
All right, from England we head straight to the Italian Serie A, where two teams have caught my attention. Milan, top of the table. Como also showing that they can build on from what they achieved last season. Yeah,
for Milan, as expected, Max Allegri he has come into that team and he has totally transformed the team. And I'm not even talking about tactics or formation. You look at the mentality, you look at the drive that you see from some of the players. On the last season where you have Conceição and Fonseca, who the players felt like they were not exactly respecting their managers. But with this, it's quite clear there's an authority, there's a sense of authority that's transcended the whole team, especially with Modric also coming in and being a leader in midfield. You look at some of the players that they have. I don't think they're the best in the league. I don't think they have the best squad in the league. But in terms of togetherness, in terms of work rates, Milan have players who are ready to run for 90 minutes, including Rafael Leao. He ran to the point where he had cramps in his leg, and that's not something you usually attribute to Rafael Leao, even after scoring a brace. For Como, yes, Fabregas is doing well. Even though I still think he is supposed to do well. He has outspent the league in consecutive seasons. He has spent 300 to 400 million in 2 seasons, which is about 2 billion, in Italian Serie A currency. But I think he's also doing a good job. You look at the young players, that have come into that Como team, and Nico Paz and Asen Diao. These are guys who, they've shown a lot of potential. It's always going to be difficult for them to, interpret that into, senior football. But they've done that with ease. And Nico Paz he has been a revolution, ever since he joined, Como. But kudos to Fabregas. But I still think, expectations should still go down. I don't think this is a team that are ready to, consistently challenge, for European places.
Also, shout out to Inter Milan and Kivu. They've strung together about 3-4 consecutive wins in our competition.
Ever since that loss to Udinese, I think he has gone on 6-match winning streak, both in the Champions League and also in the league.
So, for those who don't know, I support Manchester United and Inter Milan. Forza Inter. Away from the Serie A, it is the big one this weekend, the El Gran Clasico. It is Real Madrid versus FC Barcelona. Bankole, which team goes into this game feeling confident?
I don't know. I feel like they're both rubbish.
That's why I asked this question.
Just for the lack
I think rubbish is a bit hard.
Just for the lack
particularly for Real Madrid.
I think they have not been optimal. Let me put it that way. You look at the Real Madrid. There are still question marks over Jude Bellingham's position. There are still question marks over Vinicius or Rodrigo, who would be starting on the left. But I think to a certain extent they have a certain structure to them. Even though you consider the 5-2 drubbing they had Atletico Madrid, I think that was an anomaly. I don't think that's a result we'll get to see regularly. There's a sense of control with Real Madrid, especially when you also consider in terms of having a bit of confidence heading into that game. I think I will go with Real Madrid. I think they still look like a team who can take advantage, of that Barcelona's island. Yes, last season it was down to the fact that they didn't have any creative passer, in that team. Adagula this season has has shown that he can be that guy.
Yeah.
He can be that guy who can put in Mbappe in behind Barcelona's island. And for Barcelona, also they have suffered with a lot of injuries. This weekend we saw them play Arau, as a striker, and that paid off eventually. But yeah, these are two teams who are not exactly at their best yet. And I also don't think this is a game that would exactly determine whoever goes on to win the La Liga.
All right, what do you think Bankole feels that this particular Clasico will not determine who will win the league at the end of the season? You can leave a comment for us on our social media handles at Sports Pizza. And yes, we will be glad to take as many as possible. Let's go on a short break. When we return, this time we're coming back home. What happened in Abeokuta? Remo Stars 1, Mamelodi Sundowns 5. All right, welcome back to the second half of the show. If you're joining us, this is Sports Pizza. It is your foremost sports show where we'll give you all the very best of analysis, information, education, and a bit of entertainment. But straight up to the CAF Champions League, Bankole, Remo Stars 1, Mamelodi Sundowns 5. The painful part was the manner in which Mamelodi Sundowns got this win. It felt like they were practically playing in gear 2. At no point did they feel threatened. And for Remo Stars and Nigerian football, holistically, it's a wake-up call for those who still have this notion that we are somewhat relevant when it comes to club football on the continent. They were handed a reality check.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always felt like in terms of Africa, Mamelodi Sundowns and any Nigerian football team is relative to Real Madrid and probably Ikaza out Amati that we saw in Champions League. You look at the way, like you said, at which they were beaten. It was relative ease. It was way too easy. It was like they were playing just a group
like
of
training
boys.
session.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like it was cones, instead of players. And if they wanted to run up the numbers and make it 12 or 15, there's a possibility that could happen. There's still a possibility that we could sit 10 in South Africa. This is not over yet. So, but I think it's just a fair reflection of where we are. Just a fair reflection that one of the teams that have been heavily invested, into is being embarrassed. Now consider a team that has
Niger Tornadoes,
exactly.
El Kanemi Warriors.
It would definitely be much more worse. And I think at the forefront of it is coaching. I don't think we've done enough in terms of investing.
Coaching or talent development.
No. I think first things first. I think it's coaching. I think we have failed to.
This is the assistant coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
Edwin, that is exactly my point. If the assistant coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria has been embarrassed like this, then we have failed to do our job.
Could this be a one-off?
It is not. It is not.
I'm saying for Daniel Gumondede.
Edwin, it is not. We also saw a fair reflection of this at the CHAN. I'm not saying we have the best, the most talented players, but for players and talents, nature can also help, in alleviating it. But with coaching, nothing can happen. You have to educate some of us. And I don't think we have any coaching institute. We don't have any, tertiary institution, where you can say they are nurturing young coaches. It is absolutely dead and buried, in Nigeria. So we have to first of all sort out the coaching parts and then invest, in trying to develop talents. But I think in 10 years, 20 years, we will still be struggling to catch up with these guys.
For Rivers United, they also lost, but theirs was.
It was not Edwin. Don't.
They lost. No. They lost 1-0. Yes.
They lost to a Mozambique team.
Can they win at home?
Edwin, I don't think you can confidently say they can win at home. To show you how bad it is, I don't think you can confidently say they can win at home. This is a team that is supposed to be one of our best teams. And you can't confidently say they can come back home and overturn a 1-0 deficit against a Mozambican team. It's quite sad. And this is just the state of our football. All
right, enough lamentation. We're not here to lament. We wish Rivers United all the best. We also wish Rebel Stars all the best as they fly out to South Africa to take on Mamelodi Sundowns in what is now an inconsequential game, in my opinion. Away from that, Banky, let's go to Austin, Texas.
I thought you were going to say Austin J.J. Okocha.
Maybe
it's going to be the savior of Nigerian football.
In Formula One, at some point, was it a couple of weeks where we agreed unanimously that it was almost impossible for Max Verstappen to overturn what was a 60-plus point deficit to land the driver's title. With 5 races left, 2 sprint races also in between those 5 races. Is it possible that Max Verstappen will do the unthinkable at the end of the year?
So I don't think it's possible, but I'm also not willing to write him off. I'm also not willing to automatically.
He thinks he's back in the title
race.
He
should think he's back in the title. I don't think there's a better driver than him on the circuit right now. I don't think, regardless of the car you might be driving, regardless of the engine you might have or the soft or hard tires that you might have, I don't think there's a better driver than Max Verstappen, on the circuit. And you can clearly see it from the race we saw in Austin, Texas. Even from the qualifying race, you could see, that hunger, that drive, the fact that he's also an underdog, that he has nothing to lose, is also helping him, go and attack, the McLaren guys. And like I said, in the last 2-3 years, even before, Lewis Hamilton, left the top, it was quite clear that this was a guy who only needed a bit, or advantage in terms of his car. He's clearly a wonderful driver, one of the most talented, drivers of the last decade. But I think you cannot write him off, even though I still think 40 points is still a whole lot of deficits for him to overcome.
It's going to be a very interesting final 5 races of the season. Piastri, still the leader, but his teammate Lando Norris cut the gap to 12 points. And for Piastri, it seems to have gone off the rails, and Lando Norris, with a bit of consistency, I think he has every opportunity to usurp his teammates for that title race. Before we do another break, Banky, let's do start, bent and drop. It's been off the show for a couple of weeks and it is back. Start, bent, drop. Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane.
Okay. I think I'll start Harry Kane. And it's not because he drops in the midfield and he plays, through balls to the wingers at Bayern Munich. I think it's just down to the fact that he is, with all of these things, he is still an exceptional goal scorer. You look at his numbers and you look at the fact that as a striker, he still performs his primary duty, which is putting the ball, in the back of the net. And you look at the variety of finishes also. I don't think there's a better finisher in the game than Harry Kane. Free kicks, outside the box, inside the box, left foot, right foot, headers is absolutely devastating, when it comes to, scoring goals. So I will be starting Harry Kane. On the bench, I will be putting Haaland on the bench. This is a guy who is scoring goals at an alarming rate. This is a guy who, especially when you consider, I don't think there's enough services, in that Man City. I don't think he gets enough service, from the supporting cast at City. And the fact that against Everton, I think for about 70 minutes, he only had 2 touches on the ball. And guess what? Those were the 2 goals that he scored. It is scary, when you see someone who can maintain that amount of concentration, especially when you consider the amount of, time is off, the game is not participating, in the game, and yet he can still, within a second, just put the ball in the back of the net. So I will be putting Haaland on the bench, and as crazy as it might sound, I will be selling Kylian Mbappe. All
right, there you have it. Let's go on a short break. We'll give you our video for the week. When we return, we'll wrap up the show with the Tipsters Corner. Welcome back, Manchester United fans, including myself. Still happy, still excited. Harry Maguire, do you think he has turned around his United career, or he should leave at the end of the season?
I still think he should leave at the end of the season, even though I think he got a lot of abuse that he didn't deserve. I think his form also coincided with the dysfunctional state, of United. So at the end of the day, I still think he's a decent defender. I think he was he's one of those players. If he had moved to a team aside from Manchester United, we might be having a different conversation about him. But yeah, at the end of the day, I don't think he's. If United wants to start challenging for titles, if United wants to start, winning, Premier Leagues, I don't think he's the defender that should be starting for United. Straight up to our Tipsters Corner, Banky. We have 2 big games this weekend in Spain and Italy. In Spain, it is El Clasico, Real Madrid versus FC Barcelona. In Italy, it is a top-of-the-table clash, Napoli versus Inter Milan. So for Napoli against Inter Milan, Napoli lost to Torino. It has also, I think they have the Liverpool problem also, where they are winning without exactly looking spectacular, and at some point you expect the wheels to fall off, especially when you consider the fact that there's been a certain imbalance in the midfield with the introduction of Kevin De Bruyne. McTominay has been playing as a false winger. You have Anguissa, who's exactly not looking like a player who's at his best. Lobotka still remains the the Lobotka that we all know. He has been, one of their better players. But yeah, defensively also, Antonio Conte is yet to stick to a centre-back partnership. Bukeme and, Juan Jesus has been inconsistent, to put it that way. But yeah, I think Inter Milan are in a good place. They are going into that game as favourites. They're also going into that game with a team with a much more confidence, defeating Roma was nice, but I think I would go with the Inter double chance. I would also go with any team to score 3 in a row. No. Okay. I can also go with an under 3.5. Yeah, I think Inter to score also seems like something that you might get a lot of value from. For Barcelona against Real Madrid, straight up, I think Real Madrid will score at least 2 goals in this game. You can go with Real Madrid over 2.5. Barcelona's defense is all over the place. If you have a Girona, getting a lot of chances,
quality chances.
If it was Vinicius Junior, Kylian Mbappe at the end of the chances Porto was getting, you'd expect it to be at the back of the net. So yeah, I think Real Madrid will score at least 2 goals in this game. I think we'll see a lot of goals over 2.5, over 0.5 first half. Both teams to score also. And if you want to be ambitious, if you want to be brave, you might also go with the Real Madrid straight win.
All right, there you have it. Remember, Sports Pizza is not responsible for any bet loss. So we only give you expert analysis, point you to how you can take advantage of these games. Please use your head, use your brain. We are not responsible. Bet responsibly. You have to be 18 years and above to take advantage of this information. Take advantage of this information we are giving you. We're calling it the wrap on today's edition of the show. I'm sure you've had so much fun with us. We'll be back same time next week with another exciting episode of the show. Bankole, thank you once again for being a part of today's show.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. I'm doing this with you, Edwin. And from me to our audience, have yourself a lovely weekend.
Do have a fantastic sporting weekend from Edwin Onyebolise. Have a good one.